I'm Rashmi Venugopal. I'm a senior software engineer at Netflix, and I'm a product engineer at heart. And I spent the last decade building and operating reliable distributed systems at scale with companies like Microsoft, Uber, and most recently at Netflix.
Netflix is notorious for having great engineering and great software. It's very visible out there. Everybody knows about it. You have a lot of subscribers. So tell me about how you approach software delivery in a DevOps environment and keeping quality high.
At Netflix, I am part of a team that creates the payment experiences. So that means anybody that's trying to sign up or pay for any of our Netflix services, they go through our systems, right? And payments, especially, is a very sensitive area for the business because any tiny change in the user experience can have an outsized impact on the number of people that do successfully pay, which means it impacts the company revenue, right? So it is sensitive from that perspective. And we also run a bunch of A/B tests, and we're continuously experimenting to be like, hey, what tweaks can we make to constantly improve and optimize our payments user journey? So that means that we need high development and innovation velocity while also keeping our quality high. So that makes it a unique challenge for our teams to solve. And testing and QA is at the forefront of that and how we are able to be successful today.
But talking about keeping quality high, many times there's this sort of rift between QA and developers because developers want QA to pretty much kind of stay out of our way, but we still have to do those checks. So how do you keep the friction out of the pipeline?
I view that as a two-part problem. The first part is having the infrastructure that you need to be able to do that. And the second part is the process. So, actually following the process so that you're successfully leveraging your infrastructure to meet your goals. So starting with the infrastructure, we have the basics of the test suite, like the unit tests and smoke tests, which independently in isolation test that, hey, each application is doing what it's supposed to be doing. And then we have integration tests that test our contracts between these systems. But I think what I like the most about our test suite is our end-to-end test, which is able to run tests across multiple pages. It's almost like we're simulating, hey, how does a user that's trying to sign up or pay for Netflix via PayPal is able to go through that process. So they go from, hey, selecting PayPal to getting redirected to PayPal because we have an integration with their sandbox environment, right? And then getting redirected back to Netflix and successfully completing their payment, right? So this is what helps us have that assurance and confidence that our experiences are working the way they're supposed to at any point in time. So this is the infrastructure piece. Now the process piece is we have every pull request basically run this entire test suite all the time. Then our deploy pipeline, the deploy to production pipeline, runs this test suite every single time to then have to be able to cut the build that we consider deploy ready. So then we know that any change that's going to production is being gated by our extremely thorough test suite.
How big is the test suite, and do you have to run tests in parallel to get them all done? How long does that take?
I think we have over 2,000 end-to-end tests at this point, which is a high number. But we also have multiple platforms. We test, hey, what if this person's trying to pay from TV versus on the web versus on the phone, and different countries have different types of payment methods available as well. So the variations and the combination and permutation of these things are really high. And we also have every application set up their test environment to mirror prod and have that be up and running all the time to be able to run these tests as well. So we do have our tests parallelized, which means that it still takes like up to between 3 and 5 minutes to finish, which is not crazy long, but it's still something that, hey, I'd put up my PR, go do something else, and come back to be like, hey, how did the tests do? Yeah.
Go back to the whole DevOps thing, because it sounds like you guys have implemented a DevOps model very effectively at Netflix. So what's the commitment level to making sure that and how long does it take to get that? So if a company's looking at this, you're making it sound so easy. What can they expect in terms of like the effort and commitment to make this work right?
The cost piece, I want to say, is the biggest commitment from a leadership perspective where, hey, as engineers, we're able to convince and make a case for that level of investment in our infrastructure. That's, I want to say, is the biggest piece of this. Then comes, the engineering excellence of setting up the environment itself. And then comes, hey, creating the process. Anytime we have somebody new, how do they know? How do we make it easy for them to do the right thing? In fact, recently we've kind of flipped that approach to be like, hey, how do we make it hard for somebody to do the wrong thing? Which means that by default, they're on the right track. Like just by putting up a PR, they don't need to do anything extra to be running those tests. Just by committing your code, you're already running the tests.